Freeing the captives is considered one of the bigger mitzvahs that you can do. There's Rambam brings 7 mitzvahs that are involved with it, freeing those who are captive. And the Mishnah, when it speaks about this, it says that we go to great lengths to do it, but there's some conditions that need to be met in order for us to do it. There's some regulations that are in place that withhold us from going all the way. One of them is you don't have to give more than the value of the individual who's in captive. So let's say the going price is a certain amount, and those who are holding them captive say, give us 10 times that, or else we're not going to return your captive to you. You do not have to go to that point. You're actually dissuaded from doing so in the eyes of Jewish law. It's in the Mishnah. It's an earlier text. The reason is because if you start to do that, then the price goes up, and then you're endangering other Jews. So in this specific case, it might be a value, but it's endangering other Jews in the future. It's a complicated topic, especially with the army today. But I'll just that's one exception. Another one is that's the main exception. Now there's 3 other ones. If you see that the individual is going to be of great benefit, great benefit to the community, then there's some flexibility in terms of that. So there was a case in the Gemara with Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania, who he saw this young man. He knew he was going to be one of the Gedolei Ador, and he turned out to be Rabbi Yishmael, and they put out a lot of money to free him from those who are holding him captive. Also, if an individual wants to pay for themselves with their own money, that's a different case. And also a husband or a spouse for their spouse. That's another situation. So 2 historical examples of this when these values came into discussion was with Marami Rottenberg. He was a 13th century halachic decider, one of our big Rishonim, and he was held captive, and they wanted a lot of money to free him. And he said, "I know that." Like we said earlier, if it's a communal person who's in charge of the community and they're of great value to the nation, there's flexibility when it comes to that. But he says, I know that that's the case. Nevertheless, I don't want you to pay the ransom that they want because I'm worried that this is just going to start a trend and I'm going to be endangering a lot of Jews. In the end, they didn't. They followed his guidance, and he ended up perishing in that situation. Another case where they did free them was with the Shlach Kadosh, and he was being held captive by a sultan, a Turkish sultan, and with 15 other rabbis. And the rabbi in Israel, they bargained to free him. They lowered the price by a lot, but it still was high. Nevertheless, they freed them. There's different approaches when it comes to this. Today with the army, it's also different rabbis, different opinions based on different values. So here are some of the discussions that are brought into discussion around this with the army. Two main discussion points. We talked about how a husband or a spouse can free with their own money or free their spouse with, even if it's at a high cost. Some people say today that the army's different than just the Jewish community taking care of their members. The army has a certain obligation to its soldiers, and it's almost like a husband and a wife, or you paying for yourself. And so therefore there's some flexibility when it comes to that. That's why so many poskim have some flexibility, and they're engaged in this discussion about kind of promoting the free, even at somewhat of a high cost, freeing prisoners. Another one is if you do not commit to the soldiers that you're going to try your best to free them, even if it means at a certain price, you will lower the morale of your soldiers. So they need to know that you're going to back them up. So those are the 2 pieces that are very a little bit different when it comes to the army today, and they're strong factors that are taken into consideration when you paskin on this. The other side of it, of course, is that you can start to create a precedent where our enemies will try to capture soldiers and endanger soldiers in the future. So it's a complicated discussion. Those are the factors to take into consideration throughout the generations and in the army today. So there's no clear-cut law overall that's of high value to free the prisoners. On the other hand, it's not at any price, and those 2 components are kind of like those 2 factors are tugging at each other when we're trying to make this decision to do the important mitzvah of freeing the captives.